Hi, welcome back to Christina Just Tried. This week we're going to try making guava jam. I have a bunch of guavas from my mother-in-law and I don't want them to go bad and I don't really know what else to do with them. So let's get to canning some jam. To start this jam, we're going to cut off the bottoms and the tops and cube up the guava. It smells so good. Next on the agenda, we gotta juice a couple limes. How many limes? That's a great question. I don't know. A few, a couple, a handful. Just do it. Now, from my understanding, the acidity in the limes helps keep the brightness of the color and then also cuts back on some of that sweetness. So it balances everything out apparently. But we'll just... So about 20 minutes later, we got some nice squishy guava. Squishes. I can't really show you because it's fucking hot. But we're going to take the immersion blender and puree this bitch. Don't get all crazy because you don't want it to splash up and burn you. Now, if you don't have an immersion blender, you can use a potato masher. If you don't have a potato masher, you can use a blender. If you don't have a blender, you can just boil the shit out of it until it all falls apart. So we're looking for a nice puree. The chunks are broken up and now we're going to strain it. Now in my clean sink, I have another clean pot with my fine, super fine strainer. And we're going to strain this pureed guava mixture. This part is the part that's going to take a while. You're just pressing it through. Ooh! Ow! Just be careful not to burn yourself. So after you strain it all, you're going to be left with this pulp. And that's what you're going to discard. You're just going to toss that and keep the juice. Alright, so we have all of our guava goodness. We're going to measure it out into our bowl. We have 2448. So we'll take that number, divide it by 3, and that's how much sugar we're going to put in. So about 800 grams of sugar. We'll start off at 800 grams. Hopefully I have enough. So I'm doing a 1-to-3 ratio. Boom. And then we're going to add a couple of tablespoons of lemon juice. And then we're going to bring that to a boil. Until it's nice and thick. While the jam is cooking, we're going to throw some jars in the water because you don't want to add hot hot stuff to the cold jars, otherwise the jars are gonna break.
Here I'm taking a frozen plate and I'm scooping a spoonful of the jam onto it, and then you'll see me taking my finger and swooping it through. And we're looking for the jam to hold the line, and that tells us that it's done. Now that the jam is to the right consistency, I'm taking my jars out of that boiling water and I'm gonna pour the jam into the jars, leaving a 1-inch space at the top. And then I'm going to take a paper towel with some vinegar on the top and wipe down the rims where the top of the jar is going to go. You want to make sure that there's no food or anything there because that can compromise the seal. Now I'm taking the lids out of boiling water and I'm putting them on the tops of the jars. And after that, I'm going to take the bands and secure them onto the jars. Now when you're tightening the rims of the jars, you don't want to tighten them all the way, like super hard. You just want them finger tight. Now I'm going to take the prepared jam jars and put them into a pot of warm water, and we're going to bring that up to a rolling boil. Here you can see that it's at a rolling boil, and we're going to continue doing that for 10 minutes, and then we're going to kill the heat and let it rest for 5 minutes.
It's been boiling for 10, sitting for 5. Now we're going to take it out carefully. Oh, it already clicked.
I hear it.
I'm doing something right, I guess. It could take a while for them to pop. I don't know. Or just let them sit and see. That's all, folks. Jam. Guava. So, here's the jam after it's been refrigerated. It obviously is not set up. It is very viscous and liquidy. So I'm going to remedy it with some gelatin. Alright, check it out. This is what we're going to do. So how I'm going to fix this is I'm going to take all of the jars and pour them back into a pot. So I have 6 jars here. I'm going to take 5 of those jars and pour them back into the pot. And I'm going to get that to warm. I'm going to heat it till it's like nice and warm. With that other jar, I'm going to take it and add it with the gelatin. So for every jar of jam I have, I'm going to use 2 teaspoons of jam or gelatin. So I'm using 12 teaspoons of gelatin for 6 jars of jam. And because I reopened the jelly jars, I have to wash them and re-sanitize them. I'm gonna turn on my stove top to medium-high heat. Here is that 12 teaspoons of gelatin. The last jar of jam. Whisk in the gelatin. It's called blooming the gelatin. basically rehydrating it. And once this jam in the pot is warmed up, we are going to melt the gelatin mixture and get it all mixed up, and then re-pour it into the jars and re-water bath it. And hopefully that'll do. Stay tuned. Now the jam is nice and warm. I'm going to add in the gelatin along with that 1 jar of jam. I'm going to whisk it all together so the gelatin melts. So this is what we got now that it's cold. It's a nice jammy texture. So I'm gonna put it in my sanitized jars and water bath it, just like we did last time.
Taking out the jars out of the hot water and pouring the jam into the jars, leaving 1-inch headspace. Taking some sanitized lids, placing them on top, and tightening the bands just till they're finger tight.
Once this comes up to a boil, we're gonna set a timer for 15 minutes. After that 15 minutes is up, we're gonna turn off the heat, let it sit stagnant in the hot water for another 5 minutes, and then take it out. All right, and this is our end product. I made about 6 jars. It's not too sweet. I think it came out pretty well. If you end up having time to make it, go for it. I'd love to see what you create. Tag me at Christina Just Tried, and we'll see you next week. Bye. Bye-bye.